The alien commander stood atop the ridge, four eyes surveying the smoldering remains of Earth's capital below. Where once grand human spires stretched to the skies, now only twisted wreckage and rubble remained. Yet still, the fighting raged on. He clicked his mandibles in frustration. The humans should have been eradicated cycles ago, but they continued to resist with a tenacity that defied reason. When they first landed, the aliens expected quick dominion. Their plasma cannons and shard shields were millennia ahead of human technology. Yet when the decimation began, the humans responded with a ferocity no alien model could predict. The capital was razed in the first attack. Alien warships blotted out the sky, raining down hellfire night and day. The humans clung to the rubble like insects, never yielding. They fired their missiles and railguns in vain against the impenetrable alien hulls. When the ships descended to unleash their exo-troopers, the real carnage began. The human warriors came at them with crude metal blades, clawing at the troopers' optics and servo joints, trying to find any weakness. They used their inferior numbers to their advantage, surrounding isolated troopers and dismembering them piece by piece. Bonfire skirmishes raged at all hours as the occupation began. But the humans' greatest weapon was not their technology or tactics. It was their refusal to capitulate under any circumstance. They stared death in the face cycles upon cycles, both giving and taking it without end. While they suffered horrendous casualties, their resolve never wavered. City after city fell before the occupation, until barely 100,000 humans remained on the burnt husk of their world. Yet still they fought on, emerging from the ruins in makeshift tunnels beneath the earth. Small bands of militia would appear without warning, unleashing their dwindling stockpiles of missiles before retreating back into the shadows. The alien commander realized too late the folly of trying to subjugate humans. They could not be deterred, bargained with, or intimidated into submission. In his 250,000 cycles, he had never witnessed such belligerent defiance of a superior force. It was as if the primal human brain lacked any conception of defeat. In orbit above, the alien strategies grew desperate. They unleashed experimental biomechs, living metallic killing machines designed to root out and exterminate the remaining human pockets. The biomechs were programmed solely for death and destruction, spreading their carnage without discrimination or remorse. Yet still, somehow the humans endured. In the twisted wreckage of a fallen human mech, a lone woman gave birth to a baby that would never see the sun. In the depths of a bunker barely the size of a coffin, a grizzled militia sergeant scratched lines into the walls counting the days of the occupation, now in its 400th cycle. They were vastly outgunned and outnumbered, yet their resolve never wavered. They fought not just for victory, but for the very survival of the human spirit. Even if their Earth became a tomb, humans vowed that their legacy would haunt the aliens forever. Now, looking out over the infinite devastation, the alien commander realized the truth: no amount of biomechs or firepower could ever stamp out these humans' obsessive resistance. Perhaps generations from now, they could be fully eradicated. But the cost in alien lives was already far too high, with no end in sight. The humans would never yield, even if they had to claw their way out of the grave itself to keep fighting. Weary in his chitinous limbs, the commander gave the order for the long, bitter withdrawal. The Earth occupation had failed. Their superior technology was meaningless against an enemy with an indefatigable will to resist. As the amalgamated fleet distanced itself from Earth's smoldering husk, the commander wondered grimly if they had only awakened a new nightmare, a human diaspora driven by vengeance across the stars. Shamed by defeat, the aliens retreated, but left behind an Earth forever changed. And they suspected, deep in their marrow, that one day humanity would rise again. The humans had lost their world, but they had never lost themselves. Centuries passed. On the bridge of the League cruiser, Commissar Vrak stood in the commander's position, chitinous limbs clasped stiffly behind his carapace. Through the viewport, the blue-green world known as Earth loomed large. Vrak glanced sideways at historian Coral, who was studying the relics recovered from the first failed invasion: ancient projectile weapons, body armor, and machinery fused by plasma fire. Coral looked up, as if sensing the doubt in Vrak's posture. "You have reservations," the historian's mandibles clicked softly, "but our preparations have been meticulous. The humans possess no interstellar travel capabilities. Their defenses remain primitive. Victory is assured." Vrak tilted his head non-committally, but a flicker of uncertainty passed through his multiple eyes. Their intelligence showed no major human civilizations left, only scattered bands of survivors on the war-ravaged planet. And yet, begin the attack, he ordered evenly. Klaxons blared as the laser barrage commenced, targeting the human population centers that remained. Vrak stood rigid, transfixed by the viewport flames. The first invasion had failed because they underestimated human tenacity. Vrak would not make the same mistake. Shrieking dropships soon deployed the biomech walkers and hunter-killers to the surface. The machines raised everything in their path on auto-genocide protocols, ransacking the mountains and forests for concealed human outposts. But Vrak was unprepared for the blackened, irradiated wastelands that greeted them. The once azure oceans ran dark with ash and debris. Recon showed no humanoid heat signals amid the toxic ruins. Could they have overestimated the human resilience? Had their shattered civilization finally expired in the centuries since the first invasion? The first sign of resistance came on the 18th solar cycle, when a hidden human artillery emplacement emerged to ambush a column of walkers. In response, Vrak ordered the total glassing of the continent from orbit. Yet even as the land burned for hundreds of cycles, tiny human guerrilla bands continued to materialize and attack. Vrak increased troop strength exponentially, deploying millions of hunter-killers into Earth's orbit to choke off the planet. All alien resources were redirected to the annihilation campaign as cycles turned to centuries. Still, the elusive human militants fought on. For over 2,000 cycles, Vrak waged extermination on them. No offer of mercy or threats of added devastation could dissuade their insurgents. Something deep in their blood refused to allow surrender. The stalemate wore down Vrak's resolve over the centuries. Doubts plagued him where once he was zealous. There were always more humans, more rocks and rat holes harboring them. Each cycle the reports came back human casualties catastrophic, but some survived to keep fighting. When a 7th general offensive failed to achieve total extinction, the unthinkable happened. Vrak the Commissar was relieved of command, deemed too compromised for this mission. His replacement wasted no time implementing radical new strategies of horrific proportions. Entire continents were cracked open by planet burners. The oceans were chemically set aflame in an effort to finally purge the planet of its human infestation. Anything remotely habitable on Earth's surface was methodically scorched to oblivion. Yet Vrak knew in the depths of his chitin they were only bolstering the enemy's determination. Humans did not fight for land or resources anymore. Their only goal was to resist unto the last breath, despite there would be exterminators. Now, as an aged advisor in the command orbit, Vrak analyzed the figures with a mounting despair. 20 cycles of apocalyptic bombardment, yet human guerrilla signals continued to appear sporadically on scanners. For hundreds of cycles, uncountable lives had been sacrificed, still with no end in sight. Vrak realized the lesson that he should have learned centuries before: no amount of technology or brute force could surmount the primal human compulsion to endure. They were facing a storm that only strengthened against opposition. To defeat them was to fan their flames higher. Recall all forces from the Earth sphere. Vrak spoke directly to High Command through the neurochip. Reconsolidate for withdrawal. On whose authority came the puzzled reply: Fine. By decree of he who failed to win the first war. Silence followed. Then, slowly, the order went out. The battered invasion fleet withdrew with a humility and quiet shame rare for its kind. Below them, Earth's smoldering ruins receded, leaving only ghosts in its place. They had scorched the planet beyond all recovery, yet Vrak knew humans endured somewhere in those ashes, preparing. And one day, when Earth was but legend, its survivors would emerge from humanity's unwavering spirit to seek justice under distant stars. For they were now the unbreakable ones, and vengeance was their birthright.